The trucking industry. This is Trucking Business and Beyond, the show that puts the money where it belongs, back in your pocket.
Good morning, you beautiful bunch of fuckers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Thursday, May 23rd. We are here live. It is a free-for-all. We've only got an hour this morning, so jump in right now. We've got those phone lines open. Hit the call button on your app, and we will get to you. If you're watching on the live stream, you can pick up the phone and dial 855-950-3835. I'll also monitor the chats. I've been answering some questions out of the chat rooms lately, so if you want to give that a shot, we can do that as well. Like I say, we've only got an hour today. Jump in quickly and get in here with your calls. Anything goes. I've got some things I'm going to talk about while we're waiting to screen some calls, but today is all about you, so jump in and join us. Update on the app. I don't have anything concrete yet, but I believe we are going to be submitting our listener app, the next version today, and then you got to wait for approval. You have to submit it to Apple and Google and get approval. I think that can take a couple days sometimes, depending if we've got everything right. We have to release the listener app before we release my broadcast app because we are making that switch over to how we will be broadcasting. So at some point, you're going to have to upgrade the listener app. I'll keep you updated on that. So it's possible that we might be broadcasting from our app next week. So I'm kind of excited about that. We had the studio all ready for it. In fact, I just noticed in the studio here on the camera, I was looking for my coffee cup this morning, and I just found it. It's next to my chair here in the studio. So things have been going pretty well here technology-wise. I'm really happy with the new setup we've got here. Seems to be working pretty well. The big test will be moving over to our own platform. Once we do that, we can really just focus on eliminating bugs or any kind of issues we find, where now it just seems like we were at the mercy of somebody else's platform all the time. At least when it's ours, I can blame it on our programmers. Or when it's operator error, I can blame it on myself. All right, looks like calls are coming in. I'm going to get to them because we don't have a lot of time. I may save all of my news this morning for tomorrow, and most of it was about, I think all of it. Pretty much all of it is about the ACT Expo going on right now. That's the big convention at Las Vegas. And it looks to me like it is all about the green future in trucking. Here's one headline: Trucking faces peak complexity on road to greener future. That's probably the big story here, is that they are pushing us to a greener future. Doesn't look like anybody has a clear plan. There are so many different options, and I think that could be a problem. When you think about, we have been using gasoline and diesel fuel for over 100 years. When we had to build out a network of gas stations and truck stops, there weren't that many vehicles on the road. It was kind of, it all grew together. Well, now we have this huge, complex web of roads and highways and interstates and back roads, and we've got lots and lots of vehicles. And now we're trying to figure out what we're going to power these vehicles with, and we have to build out networks, either charging stations, hydrogen stations, natural gas station, whatever it is. But we've got a lot of different technologies, plug-in hybrids, a lot of different technologies fighting, and I'm not sure how this is going to work. And when they say peak complexity, I'm pretty sure they're right. So I think I'll save these topics for tomorrow because we've got calls coming in. Um, and this is a good topic to talk about with the team on Fridays. Here's my take on this. The good news for our market, small carriers, I would stay as far away from this as possible. Unless now, if I were still in business and I still had trucks, I would probably be buying one of these to test only, just because that's what I like to do. But if I were just in business to make money, I would not go anywhere near any of these technologies. Let the fleets go through the pain on this. Let the mega carriers figure all this out, and they will. They kind of have to. The small carriers don't, and I would not go near this stuff. I'm going to guess we have at least a decade before we figure out even a clear path on this. I'm not saying in a decade we're going to be driving some other kind of vehicle. We will have other vehicles, there's no doubt about it. And this applies to both electric and autonomous. They're both coming. The electric or whatever the other alternative green energy is going to be is being crammed down our throat. But we don't have to play on the small end. And I wouldn't. I would just sit back and wait. Like I say, I think we've got about a decade before there's even going to be a clear path on how we're going to do this. All right, let's get to the phones because the calls are coming in, and we've only got an hour today, so jump in and join us. Matt's in Florida. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning.
What's on your mind today?
A couple things with Dave Ramsey.
Okay.
Well, first, I'll just comment on your thing there. I'm all for green technologies, as in putting green money in my pocket.
Yeah.
So I probably won't be following anything they talk about.
Hey, you might be onto something. Maybe we should start some sort of green marketing campaign where we're talking about money, because that's what we're all about here. I like that. We might have to do that.
Yep.
Who's my call screener today?
Angie.
Oh, your wife. Hey, Angie, make a note of that for me, please.
Yep.
We need to come up with a green campaign around money. Screw this green electric stuff.
Yep.
Good idea.
So, yeah,
I'll give you credit for it.
A couple interesting things, around Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
He just re-released the 20th anniversary of the book Total Money Makeover. Now, there's no, the book isn't rewritten. The only thing they've done is updated all the numbers, days, dollar amounts, and type stuff like that. And then he re-recorded the audio and all that. So it's just fresh and crisp.
That's a good update, though. You know, on a book like that, I wouldn't expect him to change any of the meat of the book. Because what is there to change in that book, honestly? I mean, this isn't that complicated. He does it better than anybody. He's been doing it forever. It's a really good book. But the idea that they updated all the numbers and that kind of stuff, I like that. That's a really good update.
And like I said a few weeks ago, I just finally listened to the book The Wealthy Barber.
Oh, yeah.
And that's over 30 years old. And just very interesting listening to an older book and the numbers they throw in there in real estate and all that. It's just mind-blowing how fast things change and how much they've changed in my lifetime.
You know, I was just thinking about that. In fact, I thought I might talk with Mike Beckett when he comes on about the first time we met. And he just started thinking about how many things have changed. You know, when you mentioned the book, The Wealthy Barber, it reminded me there was a time, and I'm going to have to say it was probably late 80s through the 90s, when I was doing a lot of P&D work. That's when I really started to listen to a lot of audiobooks and read more business kind of books. I've always been a big reader. But there was almost a theme for a little while there. These books were fairly short, pretty easy to read. The Wealthy Barber, The Richest Man in Babylon, The World's Greatest Salesman. I think that was Og Mandino. There was like a flurry of those kind of books, and they were almost told like fables. Really easy to read, but with a really powerful lesson.
and the one that I would say probably hit the biggest to me came out in the 90s, but I wouldn't have listened to it till late 2000s,
I'm going to
probably
guess.
even after 2008,
I'm going to guess.
2010,
I'm going to
somewhere in there.
I'm going to guess
Yeah,
which.
you know it, because I gave it away at a CMC.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember this. The Millionaire Next Door.
Yep.
Okay,
That's
I thought that's
that
the one it
really
would be.
hit home to me.
The same with me, and because when you're struggling to make money, and there was a time when honestly I couldn't understand how anybody could afford a new car. I was just looking at the money I was making and thinking, there's just no way I could afford any new car. And when you're in that place, and I didn't grow up around money, I didn't know anybody that was wealthy. Nobody in my family was wealthy. For the most part, everybody I knew growing up lived paycheck to paycheck. And I think that's pretty common. And when you're in that place, the thought of a millionaire, I couldn't even get my head around it. Like it had to be somebody that either grew up with money or got really lucky, or they have this big high-paying corporate job and a big house. And but none of that is true when you look at the statistics. The people you think are and that was the whole point of the book, kind of, that the people that look like they're millionaires probably aren't, and most of them aren't. And the people who are millionaires probably live right next door to you and you have no idea.
Yep. And yeah, it's the number of people, or not number, the percentage of millionaires, and I don't remember any of these numbers, and Dave Ramsey's done some more updated studies on this, and the numbers haven't really changed.
Is that right?
Over 30-some years.
Okay.
The percentage of people that inherit their wealth that are millionaires, you're not even talking ultra wealthy,
right,
it's single digit. It's not even 10%.
Is it really? Okay. That's
over 90% are, it's self-made.
That's really, really good news. That's what I remember about the book making it much more real that you could accomplish this.
No.
That you didn't have to get lucky. You didn't have to be born into money. You didn't have to win the lottery. You didn't have to, grind away at some crazy corporate job. Do you remember the statistic for how many are self-employed?
No, I don't, but it's not near as high as people think.
Yeah, and the other thing that would shock people is, and it's been a long time since I read the book, but it seems to me like a lot of these statistics were in there, and maybe they're updated now. I think people would be shocked by the average annual earnings of the people who became millionaires.
Yes, there's many examples of that, even now this is probably a little outdated, but I know from that book for sure, very few of them made over 100,000.
Yeah, right. It was shocking. It was just kind of average wages that, something you should be making by some point, maybe into your 30s or whatever, and then you have the time. And isn't it one of the statistics, and I may get this wrong, but I think, didn't most people hit the millionaire mark during their 50s? Is that what it was?
Yep, age 49 is the
49
national average.
Okay, that's what I thought, which is also pretty encouraging.
Yep. Well, and so the other Dave Ramsey news is this event's already over. I never talked about it beforehand because it was $200 for his live webinar called Investing Essentials. It happened Tuesday night and last night. Tuesday night was the basics and all about 401ks and just stock market, all that.
Okay.
I don't think I learned anything, but it was a great refresher and, get me back on track with everything.
Yeah.
And then last night was all real estate.
Okay. So here's what I like
don't
about.
know a whole lot about real estate, but what I learned is I know I'm never going to be a real estate investor, not
eh,
income producing real estate,
You know,
personal real estate. Yeah.
I used to say that too, and technically, I don't own any income producing real estate, but I'm buying real estate that could become income producing. And most of that occurred not because I really had a big desire and planned it all out. And I was just kind of bored in the market. I kept thinking, there's got to be something more fun I can do with my money. It's in the market, it's doing fine. I've been doing this for years. I and I just thought all that money's there, and it's almost like I don't have it. You know what I mean? I can look at the account and know, yeah, I'm saving for retirement and I've got some security, but it's just sitting there, and it's kind of boring. And especially with my plan, just dollar cost average every month and forget about it. So I just started looking around for other ideas. We found this property when we bought the house, and I looked at it and thought this could be a great, vacation property at some point. So that's why we started to just expand this and buy the land around us. Then we started looking for land that could be income producing. And the good news is we don't have to make it produce income right now. If I did, I wouldn't be doing this. There's no way I would try to run a business and have income producing rental properties where I have to deal with tenants and problems. And so this is just a good time that I was able to take money for me that is just kind of passive and invest it, not have to get an immediate return in income, but I've had really good returns on gains. All the property I bought has appreciated since I bought it. I don't know that I'll ever run them as vacation rentals. I don't know. If I do, it will be when I'm doing a whole lot less work than I am right now. I may resell them someday and just take the gains. I don't know. But when I look at the idea of owning a bunch of rental properties with tenants, there's just no way. I don't want to do that either.
Yeah, and that's even on last night's. Because I think about it all the time, because I do know it is one of the better investments.
It really is, right. If it's done right, it really is. You've got really good opportunity for cash flow, big cash flow, more than you're ever going to generate with the same amount of money in stocks. I know you can buy, blue chips that pay dividends, and you can have regular income. But if you take the same amount of money you're going to put in blue chips for dividends and put it into income producing real estate, the cash flow isn't even close. But yeah, you also have a whole lot more work. On blue chips and getting dividends, I don't have to do anything. They just send me checks or add it to my account or whatever. But in real estate, there's a lot more risk. There's a lot more headaches. There's a lot more hassles. You can pay a management company, but you better have some pretty good margins if you're going to do that. But you have that ability to have both income and cash flow and appreciation. The value of real estate over time, just like the value of the stock market, goes up and down, but has always gone up overall.
And that's, the TikTok stuff out here, all these influencers talking about buying real estate for passive income.
Man. Yeah.
Which, I myself know that that's a false statement, but Dave says the only people who make that statement have never owned rental real estate.
Rental real estate is not passive.
Investment is the stock market and mutual funds.
Pretty much.
Set it and forget it.
Right. Pretty much. Now,
real estate is work.
Yeah, I could say that there are some opportunities, and I'm an example of it right now. Whether it will hold up long term, you can kind of make real estate passive if you have the ability to buy land, which means you have to have cash. Nobody will finance land, and you shouldn't be financing it. You have to have cash, and you have to be able to put that cash up without any return right now. But eventually I could sell it just like buying and selling a stock or a mutual fund. And if I never used it as income producing, it really isn't any work. So you can kind of make real estate passive, but you're also missing out on a lot of income potential.
Yeah. Well, Dave actually gave that example last night. So he, outside of his primary home, and he's got a big lake home that he talks about a lot. I guess he bought a 250-acre farm.
Okay.
Now I don't. He said he doesn't rent anything out. It's not being used for anything. So I'm assuming he doesn't even have crops or
Right.
anybody do anything. But it's just for personal use. He doesn't ever have intentions of renting it,
Right.
or he doesn't even know what he's going to do with it. But a tree fell in a storm the other night and crossed the property line and on the neighbor's fence. So
It's not passive anymore.
there is an expense and work on this piece of property that has no buildings on it.
Right.
And
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it now becomes non-passive.
Yep. So.
And the other thing, the fact that it hasn't changed, the program hasn't changed, they just updated numbers. That's a good thing. This doesn't change. This is really basic stuff. This is what I talk about when I talk about money and what I went through with financial planning and finally realized this is so simple. There's no way you should be charging people for this advice. And there's no way to make any real money charging people for this advice, if you're honest. I'm sure Dave says this sometimes too. It's not that those advanced financial strategies don't work or can't work. They can, of course they can. We could talk about stock splits and stock options and all kinds of crazy complicated strategies. And it's not that they don't work. They can. They can be really powerful. But the lesson is about 95% of the population doesn't need them. They're not even doing the basics. So why don't we just get people doing the basics, and it makes a huge difference for them at retirement. And once you kind of get them into that, you think, why would we ever try to move them into this more complicated stuff? This works. And once it works, there's nothing to update. There's not going to be some new way of doing this next year. It's simple. And I talk about that with money, and I talk about it with health now too. We're at the point where I'm not sure how really good, honest health practitioners are going to make a whole lot of money. Because honestly, the way to get people healthy is really simple and really cheap. And once you know it, you know it. It's not complicated.
Yeah, and eating non-processed foods, you're cutting out, a lot of market share there for anything to be selling.
Yeah.
Especially if, the goal is local, so you're going to go talk to
that's right.
some local farm and buy animals that have never even seen these large slaughterhouses and
yeah. Yep. I don't know if you were listening, since we got on the topic of animals and slaughterhouses and farms, if you were listening yesterday, I think I talked about it. The EPA now, not only do we have to worry about EPA in trucking, they are pushing some pretty heavy duty rules on farms and food producers, animal. And they're forcing, no matter what the situation is, they're forcing expensive water filtration systems. And it's going to kill the small farms.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, it's the government thinks a one-size solution can fix everything, and that's not how it works in the real world. So
no,
they write a policy and says everybody has to do this, and regardless of your size.
Right, and the last thing a truly regenerative farm needs is a water filtration system. They have one. It's called the earth.
Well, that's what a regenerative farm is.
Exactly. You're right. The farm is a giant water filtration system. And when you allow it to work, it works and it improves the soil and cleans up the water. And the soil starts holding a lot more water. I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. That is almost the single biggest goal of building soil, is build it so it holds water.
Yeah, it's. I did miss the beginning. I heard you talking about that, and I never did go back and listen to the beginning.
It's the
didn't hear everything
EPA.
you talked about yesterday.
They are pushing a ruling through right now. There are 2 Republicans starting a bill to fight it, but that's what's going on.
So, just a little plug for the investing side of things. I am actually very pleased with the number of people asking this in the coaching program.
Yes.
So anybody that wants more detail or personal situation looked at, join coaching and we will help you.
And speaking of which, today is coaching day, and you can join right now and be on the coaching call this afternoon. Good stuff.
So one last thing I'll leave you with. A while ago you asked about when I started listening to your show. It was on a post on X.
Yeah.
And I told you it was Christmas of 2007. My mom bought me a XM radio. Thank God it was XM and not Sirius back then, because that's where you were.
That's right. Yeah.
So, on there you wrote, well, thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
Which my mom's not on X. But
I kind of figured that.
Today is her 74th birthday.
Happy birthday. Yeah. And thanks again for buying him the radio.
So I'll let you move along since you're short on time today.
Well, you were pretty early then, because I actually started the live show in April of that year.
Yep.
Right around tax time.
And then,
if I remember right, my first show was like a week or two right around April 15th, a week before, a week after, right around there somewhere.
Yep. And then, the first time we physically met would have been that
in
fall
Hudson,
of 2008 at that CMC. Yep,
Hudson, Ohio, which is really, I grew up in a little town right next to Hudson, but I was like a mile from the line. And my second office, when I had all the trucks and was dispatching and doing some brokering and working as an agent, my office was in Hudson. And then we had the CMC there, so I remember that one. I think that was that the first CMC that Pittsburgh Power was involved, or did we have them at one in Denver?
Yep. Nope.
The Hudson may have been the first one.
They were. Yep, the Denver one was the spring of 2009.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. So Hudson was the first time Pittsburgh Power was there.
Yep.
Very good.
It was good times.
That was. Yep. We did 2 of them that year, both in Ohio. If I remember right, we did one in Hudson, and then we did one over near the airport, like the west side, Brook Park, over there somewhere. I don't remember if they were in the same calendar year or
2
not.
years in a row.
Was it? Okay.
Because I didn't go to Denver in the spring of 2009, so then you had another one in Cleveland area in the fall of 2009. So 08 and 2009 fall.
Yeah, for a while there, we were all over the place. Then we kind of settled on Kansas City and stayed there for a while. We should have stayed there forever.
Yep.
We should have just said, 250 is the max, get in line, and just stayed at Kansas City Harris. That was a great location.
Well, Omaha was great, or Council Bluffs.
Yeah.
That side of the river. But, yeah, it broke the team.
It did. It was too much. Yeah.
We found our limit.
We definitely, I'm the one that always says you don't know your limit till you break it, and we broke it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. Way too much work. All right. Good stuff, Matt. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Take care.
All right.
Let's go to West Virginia. Steve, welcome.
Good morning, Kevin. Monday you were talking about 401k, somebody sweeping all their money from their IRA into the 401ks. What I've found is most of the 401ks with small companies, they charge a very high percentage of your assets every year, very hidden. they take sometimes 1 to 1.5% a year of the assets out of everybody's account in there in small 401ks. The bigger the company, the smaller the amount, but it can still be anywhere from 0.25% to 0.5% that they'll take out of all the assets. You got $100,000 in, for your IRA at Vanguard. It's only going to cost you $70 a year to keep it there, and at 0.25%, it would be about 3 times as much, 3 or 4 times as much. But so I like to sweep money out of 401ks and put it actually into our IRAs. And I found I have one guy I was working with that he didn't check with anybody first. He went and started a individual 401k with his payroll company, and he signed a contract and had to pay them $3,800 in fees just to get it going. So sometimes you have to be real careful with the 401ks and when they're on smaller companies like that, or if you're with a small company, and maybe sweep the money out into your IRA. I like SEP IRAs. Your limits are on 401ks are $23,000 under 50 and $30,500 a year in over 50 and over. But your SEP IRA, you can go up to $69,000 in that, up to 25% of all your payroll, your profit, and up to $69,000. Like Matt, is what Matt makes, he can put the max in a SEP IRA every year. And your fees, I mean, if you're at Vanguard, are like 0.07 of 1%. Is what your fees are in there. There are no extra fees. It's just whatever your fees are for the S&P 500, Russell 2000, whatever you have it invested in. So I like those for that reason.
You know what I always think of when we start talking about this, and you just rattled through a whole bunch of stuff. So can you still open a SEP?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Because some of these things have come and gone. I mean, can you still open a simple? Do they still exist?
Simples, I think they still exist, but they're not nearly as good as a SEP IRA.
Right. For a while, it looked like the simple was going to be
easy.
better. Here's all I think is, why does this have to be so damn complicated? I just talked about the fact that the financial planning world makes the whole idea of financial planning so complicated, because then you're dependent on them to do it for you. And in this case,
they can see you at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. And in this case, the government has made it so complicated to figure out how to maximize your retirement savings. Why does it need to be this complicated? It just makes me crazy. I'm sitting here listening to what you just said, and this isn't a criticism of you. There's no way to simplify this stuff. I'm listening to you thinking 99% of the people are about to drive into the guardrail because this stuff is so damn confusing. Because we throw terms around like SEP. Well, let's stop and explain what a SEP is, and it's going to take us the next hour, right? And then we could talk about why the simple is better than the simple, but why you might have to use the simple in this case. Here's something else that makes me crazy. And this is for Matt, too. I'm trying to remember, why don't we talk about America's best 401k? I don't know that I've ever done a really deep dive into that. That's Tony Robbins.
It's good. It's still a lot higher fees than a SEP IRA. But it's still of the ones that are out there, it's much better than a lot of them. Yeah. And if you're going to do the 401k, go to them or T. Rowe Price.
Here's another problem
they're kind
I
of
have.
set up for it.
Do you realize that I could, but it is much, much more complicated for me to have an individual 401k.
Yeah. Oh, because you're only paying yourself. $5,000 a year or so.
I could fix that. I could play around with those numbers all I want. The bigger problem is I can't have it. I can't open an individual 401k separate from the business, only using my own personal money. I can't do it. I'm not allowed Because I
No.
have
No,
employees,
that's it.
if I have any kind of a 401k, I can't have a personal 401k. I would have to go open a company 401k and put all of the employees into it.
Correct. And you couldn't give yourself any greater
Correct.
percentage than
Right.
you do them. Yeah. There are a lot of rules as far as those go and all. But that's one reason the SEP IRA, y'all can do that. You can do that with your company profits. And that's you.
Correct.
I mean, that's
Right.
one. It is of the ones that are out there. It seems to be by far the best. Getting to as far as the rental properties go. Now we have a resort rental property, and we have a property management company, and we make it more than pays for all the cash flow. It pays for that, but where I'm getting great amount of benefit out of it is the tax savings. I'm getting the depreciation. The clients are paying they're paying for the payment, the mortgage on it. But the interest rates and all, I'm getting those the interest as deduction. So it helped me greatly to offset income from the trucking business last year, and this year it's going to do even better. Matter of fact, it's going to do good enough this year. I plan on every penny I've got left in traditional IRAs. I'm going to move it over to Roths this year, convert it, and pay the tax on it because I've got enough tax savings that it'll help me to be able to move it all over and have it Roth forever then. There are ways you can do it, like I say, but I do not want to have to manage a property like you were talking about. There's nothing passive about that.
No.
And, I do not want to and I don't even want to manage this property, or if I got another one down there at the beach, I wouldn't especially want to, if I were down there, I wouldn't want to have to do it, because you got to take the phone calls all the time if something's not right. And the management company, that's what they get their 15% for, So they handle all those things.
Owning rental properties with long-term tenants, and there are probably some people listening that might take offense to this, but I don't care. It reminds me a lot of owning trucks and having drivers in them. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing, but it's just the fact that when you own trucks and the phone rings at 2:00 in the morning, it's never good. Never. And it was the same thing with rental properties.
Right.
If your tenants call you at 2:00 in the morning, it is never good.
Correct. Yeah, that's right. So same thing as the trucks there, but yeah, it is all complex. There's no doubt about it. They have made it very complex. But I was shocked at what that payroll company did to this one guy, and he just jumped the gun. He shouldn't have jumped the gun. He should have actually asked some advice first and let somebody else look through it. And he just didn't look through it. He signed it, and boy howdy, they were treating him as if he had 100 employees.
Yeah.
And having a 401k for 100 employees.
Oh yeah.
And so when you're dealing with the larger payroll companies, they're dealing with a lot of companies that have 100 plus employees. So for that, when it spreads out over 100 employees, that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But for his basically his individual 401k was going through his S corp, and it just like I say, it killed him as far as as far as the fees went on that. So
yeah.
But
hey, Steve,
as usual, we appreciate everything you guys do.
Yes, I appreciate the help. I really do. Thanks for the call. Got to move along. Calls are piling up, and I don't have a whole lot of time today. Let's go to Texas. Mark, welcome.
So yesterday I was riding along, and I was notified through Twitter that there was a space, and it was like somehow because I follow TJ or whatever, and it's like, so I looked in there, and he was in there, and Fred was in there, and I was like, well, I was going to listen to it. And I'm telling you, what I heard from these people made my eyes and ears bleed.
Mark,
because it was the same group. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was in that space for a bit yesterday.
So you heard? Did you hear the part where they wouldn't let the guy speak when he brought up the subject? Because the one guy going on and on about some broker made $40 million, and the guy asked the question, Was that gross profit or was that net profit? And they had a cow, and they said it doesn't matter, and they just went on and on and on. And I'm like,
Of course it matters. And here's what
are
people don't get.
Are you people this stupid?
Here's what people don't get. So an owner-operator business, I try to help people with this. You have the most simple profit and loss of any business format. It is really straightforward. You don't have any cost of goods sold. You don't have any inventory. There is no such thing as gross profit and net profit in an accounting system for a small carrier. Those terms shouldn't even exist. What confuses a lot of people is businesses with inventory and what we call a cost of goods sold. Their profit and loss is more complicated and there are more terms. So cost of goods sold. If you sell products, you treat products separately. We talk about the wholesale price you have to buy the product at, then the retail price you sell the product for. That creates a gross profit. But we still have business expenses. Now we take off the business expenses and we get to net profit. That's a more complicated transaction and report to read. We can skip that first. There's no such thing as gross profit for an owner-operator. But these guys don't understand the terms. It's really simple. When I talk about an owner-operator, I only need to use two terms, gross and net. Not gross profit, net profit, cost of goods sold. Skip all that. It's really simple. So yesterday in that space, I gave an example. And I was using Matt's numbers because they were talking about brokers getting greedy. And when I gave them Matt's numbers, they all started screaming, well, you're just talking about the gross profit, not the net profit. Now, I'm trying to explain to them they don't even have the terms right. But I could not get across to them that the number I was giving them was Matt's net. They kept saying, well, you got to take off all the expenses. And I said, listen, it's the net. But they can't even understand business 101 concepts and terms. So trying to get across to them, so it was making me a little crazy. But here was my experience yesterday. It's funny you bring up the space. I have not been on Spaces in months. I just haven't had time. And I really want to add a regular space to my week, one that's scheduled and I just do it and I host it. I'm trying to find time. So yesterday, I had my whole day planned out and then something changed. Then I had a bunch of time. I just had to sit around and wait for something. So I thought, I'm going to jump into a space anonymously and just listen and see I don't even know if the technology's gotten any better. I keep waiting for them to release video spaces. I think that's coming. So I just wanted to jump in, but I didn't want anybody to see me because then somebody's always going to address me about something. So I was in anonymously. I haven't been in Spaces for months, and within 4 minutes, I heard somebody blame everything on me. They're like, oh, well, that all started with that damn Kevin Rutherford and his Spaces. And I'm like, really? After months, they're still bitching about me and blaming this stuff on me. So then I go in the next day, which is yesterday. The very same thing happened. I was in there like 3 or 4 minutes anonymously, and somebody said, well, Fred, we wouldn't talk to you back then because you were always in Kevin Rutherford's Spaces. And I thought, really? They're still making a big deal about this. So then I went back in, not anonymously, and immediately got called out, went up front, turned into I don't want to say this, but I'm going to because it needs to be said. I am shocked at how big of a bunch of effing morons these people are. I can't even try to make it nice anymore. I can't even just say they are ignorant. You know, a lot of times I kind of give people a break and say, look, they're just ignorant. They haven't been taught this. They don't know it. But they are morons because they will not listen to some of the most basic information about how wrong they are just about business in general. And they're all emotional and they're all screaming. And I guess now they're going to take over the whole broker world. And they're going to start setting transportation prices. They actually made these claims.
Yes.
And here's their
Yes.
model.
It's
Here's their model.
embarrassing.
They're opening a brokerage. They're only going to charge 10% as their margin. 8% goes to the booking agent if there is an agent involved, and 2% goes to the actual broker license holder, the company, the brokerage. You can't run a brokerage on 2%. My God, the average broker margin is 14 to 15%, and they're going out of business. They really believe that they're going to be able to start a brokerage with 10% margins, give 8% to the agent, and they're going to dominate the market and set prices. That is the most idiotic statement I have ever heard.
I mean, this shows you right there that there's some people just shouldn't be in business.
They should not be in business.
There's no common sense. You want to think think that people have common sense. These people have no common sense. They have no clue as to what they're doing. They have no clue as to cost of capital. They have no clue how to really. It's amazing they can even function in life. And they get out there and they act like they're smarter than everybody else. I mean,
it was shocking. It was really shocking how bad it has gotten.
I try to deal with people that are smarter than me because I know that I don't know it all, and I want to look to people who actually that I can look to that have experience.
You know, do you know what their first step
This is an easy business when it comes right down to it.
No, it's a tough
business.
business.
The competition. You know, if this is the competition out there, the sky's the limit.
Well, here's their strategy. At least they have a plan. Their first step in the plan to dominate the freight market is they're going to get 100,000 carriers together. And it sounded to me like it's almost bordering on price collusion. They're going to get 100,000 carriers to agree to rates and percentages. That's illegal, first off. You can't do that. They claim the brokers do it, and I try to tell them. I even asked one of them, the one who's leading this and is going to build this giant brokerage and take over the whole world. I mean, he's going to beat C.H. Robinson is basically what he's telling us. Because here's the thing. C.H. Robinson is big. They're not the biggest broker anymore. I think I told you everybody this. Do you know who the biggest broker in the country is now?
It's probably a carrier.
No, Amazon.
Oh.
Amazon is the largest freight brokerage in the United States now. First time ever on the list, and they show up on the list at number 1. So their claim basically, because Amazon does not set pricing in the industry. It's impossible. They can't. But their claim is they're going to get big enough and powerful enough to set pricing. Just think about that. You're going to beat Amazon and C.H. Robinson and Landstar and all the other. Give me a break. That's why I'm to the point now where it's not ignorance. They're morons. I mean, that is such a stupid statement. Morons. They're going to do it by getting 100,000 carriers all together to unite. They keep saying the word unite. Well, some of this is illegal. Some of it's just ignorant. They're never going to get there. But they are serious about this. They believe their own bullshit.
They worry about everybody's business but their own. They're going to save everybody. I want to save this person. Yep. I worry about me. I don't worry about anybody else.
I'm kind of in the business of doing that too, helping other people. So I get that. I like that.
Business.
That's right. That's my business. And I'm good at it.
You're not out there trying to run a truck and save everybody else.
Right.
You've got
Well, that's why I sold my trucks.
A blueprint.
Right.
You know, you've got a business doing, you're like a consultant. It's like people come to you, you help them figure out their problems.
Mark, I hate to do it. Hate to cut you off mid-sentence, but I just realized how close I am to the top, and I do want to get to these calls I've got. It's the speed round. Dwayne in Georgia.
This Kevin Weatherford?
It is.
Oh, okay. I had a friend of mine gave me this number.
Well, tell him I said thank you.
Much about you. Okay, he didn't tell me much about you. I just had a question, and he told me that any question that I have concerning trucking that I could call you. And from what I heard so far, it's very interesting. This is my first time hearing something like this.
Well, great to have you
I've
here.
only been driving a year. Thank you. Well, first of all, how can I follow you? How can I get
Yeah,
all of your information?
absolutely. So, are you listening on something that would record?
No, sir.
Okay.
I'm not.
Some of this is pretty easy. Try to remember this, fairly simple. It's our website, letstruck.com.
Okay.
Now we have
Easy, yeah.
lots of other stuff going on, lots and lots. We could talk for hours. So just to give you a quick background, I bought my first truck in 1986. And I'm third generation. My grandfather was an owner-operator. My father was an owner-operator. I grew up in the trucking industry, bought my first truck when I was 22, built a small fleet of 11 trucks, started a small brokerage, almost went bankrupt twice, and then figured out a lot of things I was doing wrong and really learned how to run this business, whether it was a trucking company or a brokerage or the two combined, how to run this business and really put a lot of money to the bottom line. And that's been my focus ever since. And that was around 1990 or so. I really started getting focused on that. I kept my trucks up until 2012. And then just like we were talking about, now I help people do this. I had to sell my trucks to have enough time to do that. I did it for several years. I tried to run my own trucks and help other people and do a radio show and run a software company. And I got rid of the trucks in 2012. I sold the company. And this is what I do full time. I mean, this is all our company does. We help drivers, owner operators, and small carriers with business, money, health, all kinds of things.
Okay, like I said, I've been here only a year, and this is my first time hearing about you. And I'm gonna go and do some research and
Excellent.
But I just have a quick question.
Sure.
I got into this truck, and I was wanting to put a refrigerator in this truck.
Okay.
And what I'm curious about, I thought about why can't I just go to Walmart or a Home Depot and get a mini fridge and put in here? Will that work in this truck?
This is a company truck, correct? It's not yours?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So here's the thing. Most small apartment style refrigerators you're thinking about that you would find at Walmart or wherever, those run on AC current, 110 volts, that kind of thing. You plug it into a typical wall outlet at home. Does your truck have an inverter that gives you the option of plugging something into that inverter like you would plug it into a wall?
Yes, I have a microwave on this truck.
Well, it's possible it's a 12-volt microwave. So, and you can buy 12-volt refrigerators, but I'm not a big fan of them. Most of the 12-volt refrigerators don't seem to hold up all that well. Sometimes in a company truck, we're not going to have an option. If you have an inverter, if you have an inverter, the next thing we have to check is the inverter big enough to run your refrigerator? I don't know that.
That microwave, it's like a plug that you plug into the house, and it does have an inverter up under the bunk.
Okay, now we do know it has an inverter. Do you happen to know how many watts the inverter is?
I'm not sure.
If it runs a microwave,
the microwave with no problem.
If it runs a microwave, it should run a small apartment style refrigerator. So then, yes, you could just buy one of those and plug it in.
Does it damage the refrigerator with all the bouncing down the road and everything?
Yes. That refrigerator will not last nearly as long in your truck that it lasts in a college dorm. You will go through them. It seems to me like people might get 2 years. Whereas, you plug it into the wall and sit it on the floor in a house or an apartment, it might be there 15 years from now, still working. The bouncing is really hard on any kind of refrigerator. The little 12 volts seem to be even worse. Like people tell me they go through those things in like 6 months.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, and it's so good to I guess meet you, and I'll be doing some research and tuning in, and
So let me ask you
listening
something
to
right now. Are you listening to me somehow, or did you just call this phone number and you're just talking to me? You're not listening to the show or watching the show right now.
A friend of mine, I was asking him about the refrigerator, and he really didn't know the answer, and he told me, he said, tomorrow I'm going to give you a number to call at
Got it.
11 o'clock,
So
and you can ask this guy about that.
So I'll give you another way you can follow us. Really, the best way. So we do a live show Monday through Friday. We start at 11 a.m. Eastern time every morning, Monday through Friday. And just depending on how the day goes, I sometimes do as many as 3 hours. We might run from 11 till 2 every day. We have different themes. Monday's kind of a free-for-all. You can ask me anything. Tuesday is all about maintenance and repairs and breakdowns and things like that. I have 3 other co-hosts, 40-plus year mechanics that come in, and we answer all kinds of questions about maintenance. Wednesday is all about health on the road, driver health. We talk a lot about diet and all kinds of things on Wednesday. Thursday today, kind of a free-for-all. You can ask me anything. Tomorrow, I have 3 co-hosts with me, and we talk about fuel efficiency and driver pay and all kinds of industry issues. But you can call on any day and ask us just about anything you want. If you want to be able to listen to that show every day, it's free.
Okay.
Do you have an iPhone or an Android?
iPhone.
Go to the Apple store where you get your apps and type in Let's Truck.
Okay.
Let's Truck, just like our website, letstruck.com. Type that into the search when you get to the App Store, and you'll find our app called the Audio Road. The app is free, and our show is free. And once you download the app, all those shows I just described Monday through Friday, there's 2 years worth of all those shows on the app. You can go back and listen to them all.
Oh, wow. I will definitely do that today.
Excellent. And I will look forward to you.
The conversation that I heard on the phone.
Yeah, I will look forward to you becoming.
On the phone is interesting.
Yeah, I'll look forward to you becoming a regular caller.
Okay. All right.
We'll help you.
I do appreciate everything, and I will be calling back.
We kind of we refer to our listeners here as the tribe, and we'll help you learn the trucking industry the way you should.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for the call. Love new listeners. Let's I got to get going here. Let's go to John in Texas. Hey, Mike and Kevin, I see you there. Good morning. I'm running late as usual, so I'm going to blast through a couple calls here and then turn it over to you. John, go ahead.
Good morning, Kevin. My son approached me a couple of days ago and said, "Dad, you're growing the company. I want to be a part of it." He's 21. He'll be 22 years old in about another 90 days. And we were talking about my trucking company as an owner-operator, and that I'm looking to expand. And he said, where could I be an asset in the company? It just blessed my heart. But at the end of the day, we were talking different areas, and I said, son, to be honest, I said, what I would like to have you consider in the beginning is I wish that I could convince you to learn the industry by getting in a truck and actually learning from the ground up. But on the other hand, I don't know, son, that I really want you in a truck right now, and 2, with the economy, but more specifically because of your age, it's going to be difficult to get you in for another 90 days. So at the end of where I'm going with this is, as I said, what I would like to do is bring on a dispatcher as I transition a little bit away from growing the Class 8 truck industry into the box truck industry.
Okay.
I'm going to need a dispatcher for the box truck. So
the
question is, Does Kevin Rutherford have or know of a excellent, in quotes, excellent dispatch school
No,
that I
stop.
could send this kid to? I don't care where it is.
I'm going to stop you right
need to know
there.
of that.
I'm going to stop you right there for a second,
Yes,
and tell me about the business going forward. You're transitioning. You're going to be doing some more straight truck work. Where do you get your freight?
through spot freight, through brokers now.
Okay.
This is a new expansion for me, Kevin. Right
No,
now, my Class 8 trucks, I'm leased on with a carrier, and they
Got
handle that. But as I'm in Texas, and I'm going to be getting my own Texas DOT to
Got it.
run initially.
So here's what I'm going to recommend.
intrastate,
Yeah,
and
here's what I'm going to recommend.
Yes,
And I don't mean to rush you, but we are kind of up against the clock, and I want to give you a good answer here.
sure.
Di- If there were dispatch training, I wouldn't send anybody to it. Dispatch, typically, all the training happens within a company for their dispatchers. Everybody just kind of trains their own dispatchers internally. What we have seen an explosion of lately are these dispatch services. I am completely against these things. I think it's a horrible idea. Many of them are operating like unlicensed brokers, and even the ones who aren't, to me, it's an unnecessary cost. I don't need to pay somebody to go find me freight when I have one truck or 10. If I have 10, I certainly can't afford to pay an outside service for this. So again, we're going to kind of train people internally, but I've got a really good idea for you. I do have some training I think you should send this kid to, but it's not dispatch training. It's broker training.
Okay.
Let's go teach him how to be a broker.
Okay.
And
Okay.
do you think this kid has an aptitude for sales at all? Is he kind of outgoing and?
He's actually an introverted kid.
Yeah,
So I'm a little concerned about that thought. But
No,
at the same time,
I
he's very
get it.
intelligent. He's very, very intelligent.
And that's why I ask. Typically, extroverted people make better salespeople, but it's not always the case. I'm an introvert, a really big introvert. People are shocked by that a lot of times because of what I do. But I do this because it's my business and what I have to do. In my personal life, I am a total introvert. But I can still manage in sales. He may become your path to growth. We teach this kid, and part of broker training is sales. How do you go out and find the freight that you're going to move? That's where he could be by far the most valuable, playing the most valuable role in your company. And there are good broker training schools. I'm going to tell you to look up. You would think I would remember this website, but I don't. I went to a broker school way back in like 1989. And the guy that ran that school back then is still around. And he still runs a school. And I send people over there all the time. In fact, they reached out to me not that long ago. Let me find this. It should be a really easy website. If I remember, he's got one of the easy ones. He does. Loadtraining.com.
Training.com.
The owner, the guy who started this, is Dave Dwinell. When I went through his broker school, he was running a little two-man broker office, him and a partner. And the school was, I spent a week in his office making coffee and answering phones and watching them work. I mean, that was the school. It was awesome, though. It was a great education. It was really hands-on. They took me out and did a sales call with one of their current customers. They took me out on a cold call for a new customer. You know, I was working in the operation every day for 5 days. I really learned a lot. And I don't know many people that know that industry the way Dave does. So I would send your son to that school. You won't regret it.
Gotcha. Dave, and what's his last name again, sir?
Dwinell. And it's just like it sounds. Dwinell.
Got it. Kevin, I appreciate it, sir. I will lead him in that direction.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks for the call. All right. I just panicked. I looked up on the board and there was all kinds of calls. But it's really, Mike's on one line, Kevin's on another line, and they already have a call. So I think they're trying to push me out here. I'm going to take one more quick one. Michael in Michigan, what do you got?
I just want to follow up with the EPA trying to expand into the agriculture.
Yes.
There is a Crime Act that was started last year, April 26th, by Mr. Massey, and I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
I don't know if I am. Which one? What's the Prime Act? There's so much of this stuff going on. I have a hard time keeping it all straight.
It is to empower local livestock farmers to meet consumers' demand.
Okay, I like that. Is this the same bill that is trying to put a stop to the EPA's ruling?
That I do not know.
Okay, I'll go check because I can't remember. I mentioned that one yesterday. There are two Republicans that are bringing up a bill to fight the EPA on this, and they claim the EPA doesn't have the authority to do this, and I agree with them. But I will go check this one out as well. Thanks. I got to move along. I'd like to talk more, but it's time to turn this over to the team from MD Alignment, Mike and Kevin Beckett. Good morning, guys. Yes, Mike, I'm bringing you in here.
Morning. This is Kevin.
There we go.
There's Mike.
Here's Mikey.
And there's Mike. Good stuff. Hey, Mike, I was going to leave a couple extra minutes at the end, and I got confused, and I went an extra couple of minutes. I was just going to leave a couple minutes and reminisce about. You and I have known each other a couple years, haven't we?
I think it's 2 this February.
Yeah.
2, yeah.
Actually,
just after 2020.
Actually, I was thinking 2 is a correct number. In a way, you are.
Yeah, you put a 0 behind it.
You are the second oldest business relationship I have in transportation.
Is that right?
Yeah, I got thinking about that. Brent Hutto, I met in 1999, and Brent and I still work together. He does a show with me every Monday. And you and I met not too long after that. I have to believe it was pretty soon after that because in 99, Volvo was the sponsor of Partners in Business. That's when I met Brent. And then Volvo did the big tour around the country where you and I met. So I have to believe it was real close after that. Yeah.
It was the New Roads tour.
New Roads. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. We have all kinds of stories about that. That's where we could spend the rest of the day talking about that one. But I got thinking about
the disasters.
Oh man, like the first disaster, they spent about $1 gazillion building this really, really cool trailer as a classroom. The seats,
and it didn't work.
The seats were really nice leather captain's chairs out of trucks, like super high-end truck seats. Those were the seats in the classroom in this trailer. All kinds of crazy electronics for giving presentations. I was so excited about doing a presentation in there, and I'm brand new at all this. And our first stop was somewhere in South Carolina, and it was about 98 degrees with 99% humidity, and the air conditioners failed.
Yep.
Oh.
Yes.
Sure enough.
Yes, and we ended up in the restaurant doing a seminar while people were eating lunch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And you had the joy of being outside in that weather.
Yeah, but nobody showed up for my class, so I just kind of goofed around.
I have some stories about that. One of my favorites was in Hammond, Louisiana, if you remember that stop.
Yeah, I remember Hammond.
Nobody showed up for my seminar. 0. I didn't have a single person. I'm sitting there waiting, and all of a sudden one guy walks in and he says, "Hey, I thought there was a seminar here." And I said, "There is. You're lucky. You're the first one here." I said, "You're the only one here, and I'm going to get started." And I started, and I gave him my seminar. Now, obviously, it was a little more casual because we would just talk, but I kind of gave the whole seminar. You know the coolest thing about this story? I went through all my numbers about, we can save 1 mile per gallon just by moving from a non-aerodynamic truck to an aerodynamic truck, then rolling resistance, and all these other things I talk about fuel mileage-wise. I laid out all the numbers, how much you could save with one truck. And turns out the guy owned 7 Peterbilt 379s, which he traded in for 7 new Volvos. Yeah.
New roads work.
It did. It worked that time. There were a lot of things about it that didn't work, but it did work that time. That was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Far out.
Yeah.
Now that was an experience,
It
traveling
was.
all over the country, and
Now,
all the mechanical breakdowns we had, and trailers that fell off the truck, and everything else.
You stayed with them the whole time in the trucks, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I traveled the whole trip.
Yeah, I missed out on that. But I don't know what they were thinking, seriously. They called me with I think it was less than a month's notice. And they said, hey, we're doing this tour and we want you to give seminars. And I looked at the schedule and you were traveling in the trucks from stop to stop all around the country doing seminars. It was a long event. And I looked at him and I said,
yes, it was.
A little notice might have been nice. I have a business to run. I can't be gone for 3 weeks or a month or whatever it was. I said, look, I'll pick certain stops and you tell me which one might be bigger or more important or whatever, and I'll fly in and out. So I was flying in and out every time you guys stopped, or every other time or whatever I could make, and that was crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. Fun
it's
stuff.
A life.
Yeah.
Just look at that as an adventure.
It was. And look at the result. Here we are, still partners. After all that time.
Right. Still talking.
Still helping the industry. Still talking. That's right. Which I'm going to get out of your way and let you talk because you already have a call.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you. All right. So this is the 25-year experience of the relationship between Let's Truck and MD Alignment. 2024, May 23rd. This is our umpteenth billionth show. We've been doing podcasts for now over 9 years. So just a lot of shows have piled up. I just got a call the other day